How will I tell him? She murmured, her voice barely audible. Her trembling hands betrayed her inner turmoil. One clutching the pregnancy test that revealed a truth she wasn't ready to face. Leaning heavily against the bathroom door, her teary eyes reflected a storm of fear and uncertainty. A sudden knock startled her, shattering the fragile silence. Wine, are you in there? His voice was firm but carried a hint of impatience. Her breath hitched as panic surged through her. She quickly wiped her tears, trying to compose herself. Yeah, just a second. She called out, her voice shaky but attempting to sound normal. After splashing cold water on her face, she stepped out of the bathroom, masking her emotions behind a forced calm. Jungkook sat on the edge of the bed, riffling through some papers. The moment she entered, he stood and approached her quickly, urgency in his eyes. Have you seen my file? Can you tell me more about it? What does it look like? She asked, avoiding his gaze. It's black and really important. His tone was clipped, focused entirely on his task. He didn't notice the redness in her eyes or the subtle quiver in her hands. Pushing aside her own turmoil, Wine quickly began searching for the file alongside him. Moments later, she spotted it tucked beneath a stack of books. Here, she sat softly, handing it over to him. Relief washed over Jungkook's face as he took the file. Thank you so much. His excitement bubbled over, and before he could stop himself, he pulled her into a tight hug. Wine stiffened in his arms, her breath catch in her throat. Realizing his mistake, Jungkook quickly let go, awkwardly scratching the back of his neck. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. His words trailed off as his eyes finally met hers. For the first time, he noticed the redness, the glossy sheen of unshed tears. Your eyes, they're red. Are you okay? He stepped closer, concern replacing the earlier urgency. Placing a hand on her forehead, he frowned. You feel warm. Are you sure you're fine? I'm okay. She replied, her voice faint. Without waiting for his response, she slipped past him and headed toward the kitchen, intent on preparing dinner. Jungkook stood frozen, sensing something wasn't right. His gaze lingered on the closed bathroom door. Flashback, Mia's expression was cold, her words sharper than knives. Let's break up. But Mia, listen, I love you, not her. His voice cracked with desperation, his hands reaching for hers, but she stepped back. It's over, Jungkook. This, whatever we had, it's done. With those final words, she turned and walked away, leaving him rooted in place. He turned slowly, his eyes landed on Wine, who stood silent by the doorway, guilt etched across her face. This is all because of you. He spat, storming toward her. Because of you, she broke up with me. Gripping her shoulders tightly, his anger poured out in harsh words. Wine's eyes brimmed with tears as she struggled to speak. I was forced, she whispered, her voice cracking. His grip loosened as his anger gave way to confusion. What are you talking about? My mom, she's my stepmom. She forced me to into this. I didn't want it. I swear I'm sorry. She sobbed, her vulnerability striking a chord deep inside him. For the first time, Jungkook saw the cracks in her armor. the pain she hid behind her quiet demeanor. His anger softened, and though he didn't say a word, something shifted within him. From that day forward, Jungkook began treating her differently. He had always resented her for taking Mia's place, but knowing she had been forced into this marriage, just like him, changed everything. Slowly, he started noticing like the small things about her, the way she quietly worked around the house, her simplicity, and how she never asked for anything. Unlike Mia, who craved luxury and attention, one was content with the little things. Bit by bit, his resentment faded, replaced by something else, something he wasn't ready to admit just yet. Jungkook entered the bathroom, the weight of his unease lingering in his chest. He turned on the faucet, letting the cool water cascade over his hands. As he reached for a towel to dry them, something in the dustbin catch his attention. A flash of white amidst the discarded items. Curiosity piqued, he bent down and pulled it out. His breath hissed when he realized what it was. A pregnancy test. The two lines stared back at him, bold and undeniable. What the She's pregnant? His thoughts spiraled, his mind racing to piece everything together. The redness in her eyes, her trembling hands, was that why she looked so troubled? She's pregnant, but she didn't look happy. Is she not happy about this? Am I going to be a dad? A lump formed in his throat, and before he could stop them, tears welled up in his eyes. But they were not of sadness or fear, they were tears of joy. The idea of someone calling him dad overwhelmed him with a sense of pride and warmth he had not anticipated. Determined to speak to her, he headed downstairs. There she was standing by the stove, her delicate hands busy preparing dinner. For the first time, he truly saw her, her soft features illuminated by the warm kitchen light. The way she moved with grace, he felt an unfamiliar flutter in his chest. But the moment was broken by her sharp cry. What happened? He rushed to her side, his eyes widening when he saw blood dripping from her finger. It's just a small cut. Ignoring her words, he instinctively took her hand and brought her finger to his mouth. Gently sucking the blood away, she stared at him wide eyed as he turned off the stove and led her to the living room. Stay here. Without waiting for a reply, he hurried upstairs and returned moments later with the first aid kit. Sitting beside her, he carefully cleaned the wound and applied ointment. They're all done. As she stood to return to the kitchen, he grabbed her wrist, stopping her. And where do you think you are going? Obviously, to finish cooking, she replied confused. No need, I will handle it. She blinked at him, stunned. This was the first time he had taken care of her like this. From the start of their marriage, he had been distant, cold even. But in the past few months, something had shifted slowly. He had begun to open up, and their relationship had grown warmer. She sat back down, watching with disbelief as Jungkook cooked and served dinner. They ate in silence, but the atmosphere was far more uncomfortable. Jungkook, he replied softly, looking up at her. Nothing. She mumbled, a small smile tugging at her lips as she returned to her meal. After dinner, Jungkook washed the dishes while she retreated to their bedroom. In the bedroom, Wine sat on the couch, her hands trembling as she held them against her stomach. The weight of her secret pressed heavily on her chest, and tears escaped her eyes despite her efforts to hold them back. What if he doesn't want this child? What if he blames me? I can't do this alone. The door clicked shut, startling her. She quickly wiped her tears and looked up to see Jungkook walking in. His expression softened as he noticed her red ringed eyes. Wine, what's going on? She hesitated, gripping the fabric of her dress tightly. His calm voice carried a concern she hadn't heard often before. It's nothing really. You have been acting strange all day. You can't fool me. Tell me, what's wrong? His gentle yet firm tone left her no room to deflect. Taking a shaky breath, she avoided his gaze and whispered, I'm pregnant. The silence that followed was deafening. She dared to glance at him, only to see his widened eyes staring at her. In shock, her heart sank, assuming the worst. I know this wasn't part of the plan. I didn't mean for this to happen. Please don't hate me. Her voice cracked and she lowered her head, bracing herself for anger or rejection. But instead of harsh words, she felt the warmth of his hand gently covering hers. Wine, look at me. She hesitated but finally raised her hands to meet his. What she saw wasn't anger, it was something entirely different. His gaze was filled with a mix of wonder and tenderness. You're pregnant? I'm going to be a dad? She nodded, her lips trembling as more tears spilled over. I was so scared to tell you. I thought you wouldn't want this child and you would be angry. Angry? How could I be angry? This is the best thing that's ever happened to me. Her eyes widened in disbelief as his words sank in. You're happy? Of course I am. I'm going to be a father. Why? And someone is going to call me dad. That's amazing. He reached out and wiped her tears with his thumb, his touch gentle and soothing. But why were you so scared to tell me? Did you really think I wouldn't want this baby? She bit her lip, her voice barely above a whisper. I thought maybe you would think I wasn't ready or that you'd blame me for ruining things between us. His heart clenched at her vulnerability and he took both of her hands in his, squeezing them gently. Wine, listen to me. You didn't ruin anything. If anything, you just made my life better. I know I have not been the best husband to you, and I regret that every day. But this baby is a new beginning for us. Tears welled up in her eyes again, but this time they were tears of relief and gratitude. You really mean that? I do. I'm going to be here for you, for both of you. You won't have to go through this alone, I promise. He pulled her into a warm embrace, his arms wrapping securely around her. She buried her face in his chest, feeling his heartbeat against her cheek. Thank you, Chonguk. I was so scared. You don't have to be scared anymore. I will protect you and our baby will everything I have. For the first time that day, Wine felt a sense of peace wash over her. In that moment, she realized she wasn't alone. Jungkook would stand by her no matter what challenges lay ahead. The next morning, Jungkook woke up early, stretching his arms before turning toward Wine, who was still curled up in the blanket. A soft smile spread across his face as he gently nudged her. Wine, wake up, let's go shopping for our baby. She stirred, blinking sleepily before laughing softly. Shopping, Jungkook, we don't even know the gender yet. The baby isn't even formed fully. So what? I will buy everything for my baby girl. No, for my handsome baby boy. He narrowed his eyes playfully, but I want a little version of you. His lips formed an exaggerated pout, making her giggle. You're impossible. You know that? But don't you have an office today? He rolled his eyes dramatically. If you forgot, I'm the boss. I make the rules. Okay, okay, let's have breakfast first and then we will go shopping. After enjoying a light breakfast together, they got ready and headed out. By the time they entered the mall, it was 11:07 a.m. Jungkook immediately began exploring the baby section, gravitating toward shelves lined with tiny pastel color baby girl dresses. Jungkook, we shouldn't buy too many clothes right now. It's too early. But he wasn't listening. He continued picking out adorable dresses, holding each one up with a sparkle in his eyes. Look at this one. Wine, isn't it cute? I can already imagine her wearing it. She shook her head, smiling at his enthusiasm. But her protest died when they entered another shop. Suddenly, someone bumped into Wine hard, making her lose her balance and nearly fall forward. Before she hit the ground, Chunguk's hand shot out, gripping the back of her sweater and pulling her upright. Are you okay, my love? Wine nodded, but her face was pale and beads of sweat formed on her forehead. Don't you have eyes? Watch where you are going. The person turned and Chokuk froze, standing before them was Mia. Her eyes widened in shock as she took in the sight of Chongkook holding Wine protectively. Chongkook, you're still with her? Why didn't you divorce her? Her tone was sharp, laced with jealousy. Before Chongkook could respond, Wine spoke softly. Her voice calm but firm. Why would he? You left him, remember? Mia's face contoured with anger as she stepped closer. Don't act smart, Wine. We broke up because of you. Wine stayed silent, but Chungkook's grip on her waist tightened. Think before you speak, miss. You are addressing my wife, Mrs. John. Mia's jaw dropped, her face pale with disbelief. What are you talking about, Jungkook? Don't you love me anymore? Fortunately, no, not anymore. Now I love my wife, the woman who stood by me in my worst times, unlike you who only cared about luxury and status. Mia's jealousy flared and she glared at Wine. She's not even your standard Jungkook, she's poor and plain. Nothing like you. Jungkook's expression hardened and he stepped in front of Vine, as if shielding her from Mia's words. She may not meet your standards, but she surpasses mine in every way. I have accepted her flaws, her strengths, her good and bad, everything. Love isn't about standards, Mia. It's about seeing someone's hurt, and hers is pure, something you had never understood. Mia's face turned red with anger and humiliation, but Jungkook didn't give her another glance. Let's go. He placed his hand firmly on her back, guiding her away. Wine looked up at him, her eyes shimmering with gratitude and admiration. As they walked away, Mia stood frozen, her heart burning with jealousy as she watched Jungkook lay with his wife. His protective hold on her speaking volumes. On the way home, Wine was deeply engrossed in her phone, her lips curving into a small smile every now and then. Jungkook glanced at her curiously, tapping his fingers on the steering wheel. What are you reading? That's got you smiling like that. Oh, just fan fiction. Fan what? Fan fictions, stories written by fans about celebrities or fictional characters. Some are romantic, some are thrilling. It's fun. Jungkook furrowed his brows, a hint of suspicion creeping into his voice. Wait, so you are telling me you're reading about other men? Not exactly, it's just imagination. It's not real, Cook. Still, why would you need imaginary guys when you have got the real deal right here? Wine burst out laughing, shaking her head. It's not like that, silly. It's just entertaining. Besides, those guys are usually too perfect to be real. Oh, I see. So I'm not perfect enough for you. Maybe if you sparkled like a vampire or had a six pack like a Greek god. I do have a six pack. One laughed so hard that tears pricked her eyes, and Jungkook rolled his. Without another word, he suddenly swerved the car to the side, parking near a small shop. What are you doing? We're fixing this nonsense right now. Come on. He dragged her inside a bookstore, the warm, cozy scent of paper wafting through the air. Pick some books, real ones that don't involve perfect fictional men. You're jealous of fictional characters. I'm just saying, why drool over fake guys when you have got me? Your one and only perfectly real husband. Wine smirked, deciding to have a little fun. Fine, but I'm paying whatever. She browsed the shelves and carefully chose her favorites. It ends with us, the silent patient, twilight, before we were strangers. Went. When she returned, Jungkook eyed the titles, stopping at twilight. Seriously? Vampires now? What's next? Werewolves? Wine burst out laughing, clutching her stomach. You're ridiculous, Cook. Ridiculous or not, I'm the only guy you should be obsessing over. Got it? Wine's laughter softened into a warm smile and she hugged him. Books and all. Okay, okay, I love you, my jealous husband. Good, because I love you too, my author wife.